Right, you can see my screen. You can see my screen now. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So Gilman, Charlotte Perkins Gilman, as you can see, born 1860, died 1935. She is well, to me, I don't think I ever thought that she's a really sort of influential figure. But yeah, I mean, to some people, she was a prominent American novelist and short story writer and so on, and a pioneer of really what's called social reform or feminism or something like that. So the question here, really, I'm not going to highlight all this idea about it, but the example here, the short story that we have that I think is going to show us this example very, very sort of dramatically in many ways. So here I gave you a nice, a little introduction. Well, I don't know if it's little, but 2-3 pages introduction. And then the short story itself, you know, the yellow wallpaper, which became, as I said, typically an example of feminist criticism, which is to some extent really, I thought, at the end of the day, I thought she was really exaggerating a lot. And to some extent, I thought this is a better example than maybe the other options, which I thought were myself, my colleague, Dr. Suzanne, and myself, we were talking about that. And she's giving another example. I'm giving this one because I think this one is better than that one, but never mind, this is my own personal reaction. And we people are entitled for our own feelings about things like that. But Gilman is this example, which I thought is maybe a bit probably more acceptable than other feminists who were, I think, to some extent, who went too far. And I think went too far, and they were crazy about all this thing about feminism. And even now, the word, to some extent, by many standards and many people, really, even now in modern time, it became like a taboo word for people. Many women writers wouldn't like to be called feminists. I don't know, but this is something that it should not be seen as a negative thing. It originally meant to be positive, but when things are dragged too much, when you drag something too much, then it becomes ugly, and it does not really give the good, if you like, intention behind it. So Gilman gave us a short story to tell us about that, or her ideas. Although I must admit to you, as we shall see, even Gilman here was exaggerating about the whole question of feminism and so on. I will show you this later. So here I have this little introduction. As you can see, I think you can read it. I'm sure you must read that, all of it. Notice she was a prominent American humanist, novelist, writer of short stories, poetry and nonfiction, and a lecturer for social reform. She was a utopian feminist. You know, this is the idea. I'm saying, you know, utopian, meaning she dragged it too much and she was exaggerating, and I think she was not realistic. You know, when you say utopian, she was dreaming too much and unrealistic. Yeah, people are, we respect each other, men and women. You know, men and women, we respect each other, but we don't go crazy about that. about all this thing of women's freedom and all this carry on. Of course, maybe you will not agree with me, because you may say, well, yeah, you are a man. You say this because you're a man. And you will say this to me because most of you here maybe are also, could be, well, most of you are girls here. So you may say, yeah, you say that because you're a man. Of course, you'll say this. But I will show you why, and you can talk to me. You can respond to me if you like, you know, in this way. So I didn't say, this is not me who is saying utopia. Really, I took all this. It's not mine. I actually copied and edited most of this from many sources. You can see here the word utopian. Yeah, she was utopian. Meaning she was dreaming too much and dreaming or thinking too much about that which is not necessary. So served as a role model for future generations and feminists because of her orthodox concepts and lifestyle. She has been widely acknowledged as a key founder of the American feminism. Again, blah, blah, blah. Her best remembered work today is her semi-autobiographical short story, The Yellow Wallpaper. Again here, the one we are going to study. And I say semi-autobiographical, yeah, because it's something like her. You know, it's like an autobiography. The Yellow Wallpaper, reprinted below, which she wrote after a severe fit of postnatal psychosis. Yeah, I mean, we understand. I mean, I understand, and we shall see. We understand that women have, yeah, I mean, this question of postnatal psychosis, you know, yeah, we understand that people have problems after giving birth to their kids, to their babies, to their children. They have some, yeah, I mean, this is natural, and we accept it, we believe it, we accept it, and we think this is real. It's not imagined or something. Yeah, I mean, that's natural. But what I'm saying, of course, as we shall see later on, I will show you that this example was dragged too much, and I think blown up to the extreme, to the extent that it became utopian and not maybe possible or not acceptable in this way. Here we have more details about her own relations. You know, Gilman was related to Beecher family, or Beecher Stowe family. Later on, we shall see that Harriet Beecher Stowe was her aunt, actually. You know, and Beecher Stowe was really, or I should say, Harriet Stowe was a famous, absolutely famous novelist. I mentioned her to you before as an example, really, as I think, and again here I argued with my colleague about it. I think she's better even than Mark Twain to be given as an example of slavery or slave narrative or slave fiction. Anyway, Gilman was born, as you can see here, I give a little bit of introduction, to Mary Perkins and Frederick Beecher Perkins. Again here, she had only one brother, Thomas Odie, and so on. I'm not going to read all this because I think you can see this on your own, you can read it. But the idea I'm saying that she was related to this family, Harriet Beecher Stowe, the author of Uncle Tom's Cabin, and Catherine Beecher, and if you like, an educationalist as well. So the idea I want to say that originally, maybe you can say that she is a talented girl, or she was a talented young lady coming from a talented family. And here in this next section, I give more more example about the question of participation, how much she was active as a social reformer, really, a writer and a social reformer. Well, I don't know. Even I don't know. Even sometimes we say how much these people were really reformers. How much they were reformers, I don't know. But sometimes this idea, the whole idea of reformer or social reformer is, to me, is political and social and ideological and could be personal, and then could not be true. Really, it could not be true. And to some extent, could be like, sometimes you say social activist or political activist, or, I don't like this when you say nashit. They use this in Arabic, nashit ijtimai or nashit siyasi. Yani, what does it mean, nashit here? The idea, we use this a lot today in normal Arabic politics. You say nashit ijtimai or nashit siyasi or nashit. Come on, what is nashit here? And I think here the idea here is that reformer, muslih, يعني مصلح اجتماعي. Allahu Akbar. What do you mean by muslih ijtimai? Who, what, and so on. Sometimes I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying, I'm not rejecting, I'm not negating, I'm not against it, but sometimes it's dragged into extreme things, and at the end of the day you discover that most of these activists, really, they are not reformers to some extent. I'm talking here about Syrian life and Syrian society and Syrian, really, if you like, Syrian context. I'm talking about Syrian context. Most of those what were supposed Syrian activists or Syrian reformers, they were really enemies of the people. Full stop. In a way, they were and are really enemies of the people, not reformers. Full stop. Really. And I can, we have so many examples of that. I don't know. So here, Gilman, was she a real reformer? I have no idea, but I think I have my doubts. Now I think I have my doubts about all these people, about the question of social reformers or social activists and so on. So that's why she started with this National American Women's Suffrage Association. Look at this. National American Women's Suffrage Association. Again, the word suffrage here again is a funny word to use. Were these people were suffering, or what do you mean suffrage? Your equality, or what is this? To give freedom. Again, an international, again, socialist and labor congress in London. She participated in all these things, and she was in a way, as I said here, what I'm calling social activist, or a political activist, or a reformer, and so on. As I said, I have my doubts. This is, what I'm saying to you about all these people. So our story, I will show you here, of course, when I read it, but I'm giving you just to look at the idea here. She became inspired enough to write 15 essays, poems, and a novella, and the short story, The Yellow Wallpaper. Her career was launched when she began lecturing on nationalism and gained the public's eye with her first volume of poetry, This Our World, and she was a lecturer and so on, herself, of course, in real life, she was married to a doctor, and her husband was a doctor. And the funny thing is, again, in the same way, probably she herself was both when she was a lecturer. I don't know if she became or she was herself a doctor or not, but I'm not sure. I must check whether she got a PhD to have done this or not, but I don't know. So she was giving speeches everywhere, and that's why she was, as I said, an activist and a writer and a social reformer, and so on. So those, I say here, these preoccupations and concerns included social views and theories on socialism, Darwinism, race, and feminism. Whoa, look at all these questions here: socialism, Darwinism, race, and feminism. And I think, in many ways, she was talking about all these things as if to say she was against them. I mean, she was giving or trying to give equality and freedom to people and society. But at the end of the day, she was deep down, she was not. There was a lot of hypocrisy going on, about socialism and Darwinism, especially the question of race, about race and racism. Herself was a racist. She herself was a racist in many ways, and I will show you that. So Gilman called for a reform for the role of women in society, and hence earned her role as a humanist. And here I give more and more, especially notice her book called Women and Economics. She wrote this huge book. I don't know here why the word women and economics. I don't know why I wrote this in capital letters or maybe in more. But yeah, this book here, notice she said, there is no female mind. The brain is not an organ of sex. Might as well speak of a female liver. This book reveals her characterization of women as virtual economic, social, and sexual slaves, dependent on men for everything from food to friendship to protection, to her call for women to free themselves from these shackles. Women and Economics electrified Victorian readers and still remains a foundational work of feminist theory, essential reading for everyone wishing to understand women's struggle for full and self-determined personhood. Personhood. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I mean, I don't know. Any comment about this? There is no female mind. Any comments about this sentence? Ghaida? Ghaida? Noor? Hello? Come on, girls, where are you? Hello?
Maybe it's mean that women they can't use their mind or involve in this kind of things. They are not allowed.
Yeah, I'm saying you, do you really believe what this sentence? She said, there is no female mind. Do you agree with that?
Of course not. Especially in these days. Women involved in everything.
Yeah. Yeah. Good. Yeah. So really, the idea that, as I said, she's a little bit, I don't know. As I said to you originally, she is really, I think she is exaggerating. And, you know, we know that, I mean, of course, there are, I mean, we are all the same in a way. We are people, yeah, we have the same mentality, etc., etc. But there is, I think there is some difference between a man's attitude and a woman's attitude, and women's mentality and men's mentality, and this going on here to say there is no. We will see this question in maybe in details later, how she's seeing this, that the brain is not an organ of sex, meaning, you know, like what you say, might as well speak of a female liver. Like, I think Gilman knows what she's talking about, and I think she knows exactly what she's talking about, but she is twisting the story. I think she is twisting the story. We're not talking about livers and hearts and minds. We're not talking about livers and hearts and minds. That's not we are talking about. I mean, a woman can give her liver, or can give, I mean, in today's medicine, for example, in today's medicine, you know, we transplant, you know, bodies. We take, you know, medicine today is using organs from people. They're not saying that this is a man to be put into another man. You know, an organ from anybody's a human body can be put into another human body. It's not necessarily a man to a man, or man to a, or a woman to a woman, or that's not the story. That's not the story. Gilman, what are you talking about here when she say no female mind, no, you know, female liver? Of course, of course, of course. You know, so I'm saying, you know, I think she is trying to shock people, to maybe to wage an idea or something, which is sometimes, I thought, especially as we shall see, she's exaggerating this in her story later on. So notice here, for example, again, because she went into, especially later on, you know, in her more really more you know, more drastic examples. I don't like her other examples. She went into utopia, as I said, especially in her novel called Herland. Herland? Come on, is this natural to have a country only for women? Come on. Is this natural? Is this normal? Is this normal? Come on.
No, not possible.
Come on. You know, that's not healthy. That is not healthy. That is not correct. That is not possible. She was, come on, lady. Come on, lady, calm down. Calm down. Give us a break, please. Give us a break, please. You know? So she really exaggerated this. Notice here, of course, I agree that there are things that women should and should not, etc., etc. We know, we agree to this. Yeah, of course. You know, Gilman argued that women's contributions here, of course, I can't read everything. Gilman argued that women's contributions to civilization throughout history have been halted because of such patriarchal culture. You know, she's talking here about the question of patriarch and this idea of patriarchy and masculinity and the masculine and the man and so on. Yeah, of course. Yeah. There are cases and there are situations, but this is how we are created. This is, you know, this is how we you know, this is how nature is. She believed that womanhood was the underdeveloped half of humanity. Look at this. I mean, look at this sentence. Underdeveloped? Why underdeveloped? Why underdeveloped? Why? That's not true. They are fully developed like everybody else. There's no difference. Come on. But I will tell you later on why she's saying this. Notice, the improvement was necessary to prevent the deterioration of the human race. Ultimately, Gilman believed that women are subjugated by men, that motherhood should not persuade a woman from working outside the home, and that housekeeping, cooking, and childcare would be professionalized. I don't like this. I don't agree with this. I do not. Childcare and housework and cooking should be professionalized, meaning to hire people to bring up my own kids, to hire people to cook for me, and to cook for you and for everybody in the family. Why? The ideal woman, Gilman wrote, was not only assigned to social role that locked her into her home, but she was also expected to like it. And, you know, she goes on, as I said, I think, in a way, as I said, I think she was too much. I think she dragged this in the last novel called Herland. Notice, in the utopian novel Herland, 1915, Gilman demonstrates how women are able to create the world, the equality that she longed to see. The book describes an isolated society composed entirely of women who multiply via asexual reproduction. My God. Yeah. So really, as I said, this is unbelievable and not acceptable. I think when she's doing this in a very funny, amazing, amazing ways. Shocking, yeah, maybe she did this just to shock society, because that's not possible. That is not possible to have a country with women for a land, a country, because you should her land. To have a nation or a country or a place or a city or a town or whatever, you know, which is made or composed only of women. And I think this would be crazy, and it's not possible at all. And the idea really, not only that, but she dragged this into extremes. Really, she dragged this into extremes. And I don't like the idea, because, as I say, this is unbelievably unrealistic. And yeah, we understand the message. Okay, we understand what you mean. All right, fine. But that's enough. I think that's what I'm saying. You know, that's not possible, and that's not healthy. I'm saying, really, this is the idea. So read the rest of this if you like. My introduction, it's, you know, I gave, I think, a lot of this introduction, and the way she talks about that, as I said, she said that she was not racist, but she said, and she theorized, but she was. Look what she said here, notice. Gilman believed that those enlisted should receive a wage, but only after the cost of the labor program was met. In other words, Gilman still believed in the purity of the old stock Americans of British colonials who should not give up their country to immigrants of various origins. What? What? You know, look on TV today, what's going on today in America. I mean, this is exactly what Trump was saying. You know, we should kick away all these non-whites from America because they are not Americans. Huh? And even funny and crazy and ugly enough, that whites themselves are immigrants themselves. They came to America because America originally was not white. No white. Notice, old stock American of British colonials. And that's why they say, you know, they have to be Anglo-Saxon white, originally white. I mean, this is the idea, really. Again, she says that at the end of the way, she said it. Look what she said. When asked about her stance on matter during a trip to London, she famously jested, "I am an Anglo-Saxon before everything." Oh, really? I am an Anglo-Saxon before everything. Yeah, so I'm saying here, of course, I'm quoting this, as you can see at the bottom here in this page. Yeah, she said that. So the yellow wallpaper, if you like, can be interpreted really within this vein of Gilman's belief, as I say, as you can see, beliefs about race and racism and all this. So the story is simple here, really. It's about a mother who has really problems after giving birth to her baby. Yeah, I mean, many mothers can have this, you know, postnatal thing like that. I mean, this is you know, the exact. I mean, it happens. I mean, this is possible, and we're not saying, you know, this is something not really acceptable, okay? And you know, we can say this, as I said, postnatal psychosis, you know, severe fit of postnatal psychosis. Like this may be a little bit of some kind like depression, or like some psychological, a little bit of psychological maybe imbalance, or you feel something like, I mean, we've heard of this, we've seen this, and it's natural. And there are some cases which could be severe, which could be, physically affected. Your body will be affected, and therefore your mind could be, you could have some psychological, for example, consequences, and that's natural. I mean, people have this, and because of their bodies and their nature, because they give birth, because they carry in their bodies babies and they give birth to children, of course, the effect and the power, the psychological, really, the psychological effect of this is sometimes really powerful. Yeah, we understand that. So this postnatal psychosis, we're not saying this is a disease. We're not saying this is something ugly. We're not saying that this is something which is strange or doesn't happen, or something out of the blue. So we accept it and we take time. It takes a little bit of time to be patient, like having any kind of really health problem, which can be fixed in time. You need time, whether psychological problem or physical problem, it's a healthy matter, as I said, psychologically healthy or physically healthy or not healthy. So sometimes you need time. You need time to heal. And really this question of depression, and this psychological maybe depression, or maybe some kind of mental illness, will take some time, and then it'll be okay. It'll be okay. So the yellow wallpaper is exactly about this. A mother who is having a little of psychological problem, something like depression, and she was put by her husband into a country home to just recover. And by chance, her husband is a doctor, a medical doctor, and he is her husband. He loves his wife. Definitely there is, a real, unbelievably real love relationship between man and his wife. And the treatment that he gave his wife was based on medicine, was based on medical testimony. No.
Excuse me, doctor?
Yeah?
I'm against the idea that he loves her, because nothing in the story shows that. Yes.
Very good, Ghaida. Very good, Ghaida. Yes, I like that. Ghaida, wait for me, please, and be patient. Now, Ghaida, who is the narrator?
I think the woman herself.
Who was speaking to us all the time?
The woman.
And do we really believe her completely, 100%?
Absolutely. Why not?
Oh, really? So she's not exaggerating?
Like,
in some points, I think she's not.
But
I mean, do you really fully trust her?
Yes, because she's the one who went through the situation itself. Like, her husband didn't understand what she's being going through. So yes, why not?
You mean you're saying the husband did not understand?
Yes, because he didn't understand her medical situation, even though he's a doctor. Like, he isolates her. What the point of isolating someone is depressed? And also he prevent her from continue writing, which is a hobby she likes and something she's as a way out of her bad feelings or dark feelings. Yes, this is my opinion. It's only my opinion.
Yeah. Okay, I respect your opinion, but I will show you. I will show you later that she was wrong. Well, not completely wrong, but she is exaggerating. And as I said, first, he is a doctor, medical doctor. Second, he is her husband, and the baby is his son and her son. So either we agree or accept that this is a good man or not. Is he a good father or not? Is he a good husband or not?
I think he is a good man, but not a good husband.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Yeah. Yes. But is he a good doctor?
No, this one is absolutely not a good doctor at all.
Very good, Reda. I like your idea. Okay. I will see. Yeah, of course, we will see that later. But you see, the story really, as I said, is as we shall see the question here. Here, as I said, the idea. Notice the Yellow Wallpaper is now the all-time best-selling book of feminism. The story is about a woman who suffers from mental illness after 3 months of being closeted in a room by her husband for the sake of her health. She becomes obsessed with the room's revolting yellow wallpaper. Gilman wrote this story to change people's minds about the role of women in society, illustrating how women's lack of autonomy is detrimental to their mental, emotional, and even physical well-being. This story was probably inspired by her treatment from her first husband. The narrator in the story must do as her husband, who is also her doctor, demands, although the treatment he prescribes contrasts directly with what she truly needs: mental stimulation and the freedom to escape the monotony of the room to which she is confined. The Yellow Wallpaper was essentially a response to the doctor, and here the real name, of course, is mentioned, and I'm quoting from other sources, is not as you can see here, Dr. Silas Weir Mitchell, who had tried to cure her of her depression through a rest cure. She sent him a copy of the story. Well, we shall see, as you can see here, again, she explained at the end of the story. Notice here, I quoted for you a last note, a footnote here at the end. She said, why I wrote the Yellow Wallpaper. Here, in the American Warp Reader, she wrote this little article or a response to this, asking her why did she write this? And I think you can see it here. Notice many a reader has asked that when the story first came out in New England magazine, a Boston physician made protest in the transcript Such a story ought not to be written, he said. It was enough to drive everyone mad to read it. Another physician in Kansas also said, I think, wrote to say that it was the best description of incipient insanity he had ever seen, and begging my pardon had I been there. Now the story of the story is this. You know, she's saying to us exactly why she wrote the story. For many years, I suffered from a severe and continuous nervous breakdown, tending to melancholia and beyond. So she said that I had nervous breakdown. And she said, nearly like what's called melancholia, and even more than melancholia. During about the third year of this trouble, I went in devout faith and some faint stir of hope to a noted specialist in nervous diseases, the best known in the country. This wise man put me to bed and applied to rest cure, to which a still good physique responded so promptly that he concluded there was nothing much the matter with me, and sent me home with solemn advice to live as domestic a life as far as possible, to have but 2 hours intellectual life a day, and never to touch pen, brush, or pencil again as long as I lived. This was in 1887. Well, this is a doctor who said that to her. When that's what she's saying. This is a real, it's not fiction. This is what she's saying. She herself had problems, you know, nervous breakdowns, and the doctor said to her, you know, you should get rest and live normal life. He said, live as domestic life as far as possible. And you should not, you know, use your mind a lot, because you'll go crazy again, right? So he said 2 hours a day. And he said, never write, never use the pen. Yeah, well, I went home and obeyed those directions for some 3 months, and came so near the borderline of utter mental ruin that I could see over. Then, using the resentment of intelligence that remained, I helped a wise friend, and helped by a wise friend, I cast the noted specialist's advice to the winds and went to work again, work the normal life of every human being, work in which is joy and growth and service, without which one is a pauper, or is a pauper and a parasite, ultimately recovering some measure of power. Being naturally moved to rejoicing by this narrow escape, I wrote the yellow wallpaper with its embellishments and additions to carry out the idea. I never had hallucinations or obsessions or objections to my mural decorations, and sent a copy to the physician who so nearly drove me mad. He never acknowledged it. The title book is valued by alienists and as a good specimen of one kind of literature. It has, to my knowledge, saved one woman from a similar fate, so terrifying her family that they let her out into normal activity and she recovered. But the best result is this. Many years later, I was told that the great specialist had admitted to friends of his that he had altered his treatment of, again here, neurasthenia, since reading the yellow wallpaper. It was not intended to drive people crazy, but to save people from being driven crazy. And it worked. Yeah, I was going to say, you know, that doctor who told her this, you know, we know medical doctors are people, and they have, you know, he said he changed his mind. Notice here at the end, she said he changed his treatment. So she wants to say that doctor was wrong. I mean, but originally himself, he believed that his prescription, his advice, you know, we take medications, isn't it? And sometimes you go to a doctor and then to another doctor and the first doctor and the third doctor and the fourth doctor. And do you know that each doctor will give you, say, why did you go to that doctor? His medications are rubbish. Have you heard of the story like that, of somebody saying this? Huh? Oh, that doctor is stupid. He gave me a bad thing. Why? Because another doctor told him that medicine is not good. So I'm saying here, doctors can make mistakes. Or to them, it's not a mistake because they believe that their description or their, if you like, prescription, because they believe is correct. And they did it because they believed it. Because they read in books, they read in their own books and journals that this kind of disease should be treated this way. And they tell you how to do it. And that doctor told her never to touch a pen and never to think more than 2 hours. You know, he was following books. He was following other people who said that to him in books. He didn't create it from nowhere. So he was a medical doctor and he thought he was doing his job. But how many doctors prescribe something and then it turns out to be absolutely rubbish? How many? Ghaida?
Million.
Huh?
Million doctors.
Ah, million. Oh my God. Well, I wouldn't say million. I would say many doctors. Yes. Many doctors. And sometimes, you know, honest to God, sometimes what they say about each other, you wonder, you say, my God, what is this? Who should we believe? You know, we people, we say, who should we believe? Isn't it? So really here, this friend, our writer here is saying, I followed the directions of my doctor, my husband doctor, you know, the way I followed his ideas, but to his own mind, he was doing his job. To his mind, he was a doctor, and he told her to do this and never to do anything else, because he really believed it, because he is a medical doctor, and he thought he was doing the great job for his wife, for his loving wife. You know? So he has two, as I said, amazing drives, which really drove him to protect her. She's his wife, and you know, he's a doctor, and he knows what he's doing, and so on. So therefore, you know, for anybody in his own idea, you know, she should follow what he's saying. She should believe him. Of course, we understand what she is saying later on. Of course, we understand what she is saying. And I think the prescription, of course, when he said, never touch a pen, I think, to me, I think, I'm not a medical doctor, but I think that was a mistake, really. That's not possible. So the story is about that, and really, it's a funny story. As you can see, the story here, as you can see, there are gaps. You know, she gives gaps in the story, as if to say that the story was supposed to be really, you know, originally she meant it to be maybe a bigger, or maybe longer, or maybe like a novel or something. So that's why you could see here a lot of gaps, as if to say like chapters or divisions or spaces to separate the idea and the narrative also. The funny narratives here, it looks like all in dialogue or all in really small sentences and small paragraphs, you know, as if to say she was always, you know, talking to herself or arguing, or, you know, which fits, again, I think, to fit, as I said, to the mentality of maybe a crazy person who is, to some extent, driven into madness because of what's going on to her. So really, the yellow wallpaper is, if you like, about all of this. The woman I'm saying, you know, at the end of the day, you know, in the outside of the story, we know that the woman was right. But when we are in the middle of the story, when we are still reading the story and understanding the logic of the man, the logic of the husband, we say, wait a minute, let's see. So here, the story, I think you can see it. It's very seldom and mere ordinary people like John and myself secure ancestral halls for the summer. So immediately you can see the narrator, the writer herself, well, because we say, maybe we say the writer, or I'm saying could be the writer herself, could be, because I'm saying semi-autobiographical novel. Yeah, so the narrator here, I should say, the narrator. So here we have a man and wife, she and her husband, John. So they have a country house. Notice, myself secure ancestral halls for the summer. Something like they inherited from their family. That's why using the word ancestral, you know, as if to say taken, inherited from their family. A colonial, again, and she goes on. Again, the funny narration to give a sentence, one paragraph, and then another sentence, another paragraph, and another sentence, another paragraph. You see, as if to say, she wanted to say a lot, but she is giving us summaries. Really, she's giving us summaries and snapshots and summaries of larger picture. A colonial mansion, a hereditary estate, I would say a haunted house, and reach to the height of romantic felicity. But that would be asking too much of fate. Still, I will proudly declare that there is something queer about it. Else, why should it be let so cheaply? Meaning this house was given for rent. People, you know, it's used for rent. People are renting it. So it's saying, if this is a good house, why they are giving it for rent? Because this is the word to let. Let here means, in English, they use this phrase, for let. Let means for rent. It's for rent, renting. Why should it be let to so cheaply? Meaning it's rented in a cheap way. I mean, it's very cheap to rent that house. Why have stood so long untenanted? Meaning nobody is even renting it. It's cheap, but yet nobody is using it. So here she's telling us the house where her husband brought her, it's a country house. It's a country house, their house, an old house, maybe a romantic house, maybe to him is a romantic house, but to her, maybe not. For her, she thinks it's cheaply looking, and that's why nobody is using it. John laughs at me, of course, but one expects that in marriage. So here to say that sometimes, sometimes men, especially if this is originally owned by the man, and sometimes women have their own ideas about things. So that maybe here the man, he likes his house, but his wife maybe not. So he tells her this is a great house, but she doesn't believe it, and they laugh about it. She laughs, John laughs at me, of course, but one expects that in marriage. To say, yeah, I understand, he laughs at me sometimes, I know that he's laughing at me. I understand, but this happens in life. It happens between man and husband, that sometimes we say things to each other and we know we are only flattering each other or saying something for a laugh. John is practical in the extreme. He has no patience with faith, an intense horror of superstition, and he scoffs openly at any talk of things not to be felt and seen and put down in figures. So here she's saying to us that her husband is a very practical man who doesn't believe in superstitions whatsoever, which means she believes in superstition and she believes in ghosts or things like that. So her husband is a practical man, whereas she is very fantastic woman. She uses her own fantasies. Yeah, it happens. So she's telling us, the difference between me and my husband. I am superstitious, whereas my husband is a real, absolutely practical man. He knows things in fingers. 1 + 1 = 2. So that's what she's saying. He believes in figures. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's it. Scientific person, absolutely practical, realistic, scientific person, whereas she's not. John is a physician, and perhaps I wouldn't say it to a living soul, of course, but this is dead paper and a great relief to my mind. Perhaps that is one reason I do not get well faster. So she's saying here, in a footnote and between brackets, notice between brackets, she said, John is a physician. And as if to say, she said, hey, let me tell you something between us. But you see, I'm writing on paper and this paper is dead. Nobody's going to listen to me. But I'm going to say it as if to say, I'm talking to the paper now, the paper that she's writing these words on. She's saying, I'm writing this and nobody can hear me now. That's what she said, living soul, but only this dead paper, meaning I'm writing this word and nobody can see me now, and I don't care what people will say. She wants to say, and she said it, she said, because he's a physician, because of that, she said, that one reason I don't get well faster. Because he's a doctor, I can't get, better. It means my health doesn't get better faster because he's a doctor. Hasbi Allah. What? Maybe that's the idea she's saying. because she wants to say that, you know, he's always telling her what to do and not what to do. Notice she said, you see, he does not believe I am sick. He doesn't believe I am sick. And what can one do? If a physician of high standing and one's own husband assures friends and relatives that there is really nothing the matter with one but temporary nervous depression, a slight hysterical tendency, what is one to do? So she's saying, I am sick, and my husband doesn't believe I am sick. Because her husband, you know, as a doctor, and he's telling everybody that she's okay. It's only a mental depression after giving birth her baby. So in few months, in 2-3 weeks, she will be fine. Yeah, but that's okay. But that's not, you know, physically. You know, that's the idea, because she used the word physician. You know, she uses the word physician to insist about the physique, about the physicality. Physically, yes, she's okay. But again, she's not clearly saying this about the difference between, you know, the things to do with the mind or the body. Anyway, I will stop here and I will continue next time. Please read the whole story for next time. I'll try to finish it next time. Okay, any question, boys, girls, any question, any comments?